and welcome to another episode of What's on the Pile. I'm Nathan Besner, and joining me is Shane Lee,
What's up?
Jane Belcastro,
Hi, hi.
Matt Wagner,
Dubbed into Italian.
and Jenner.
Turning Italian. I think I'm turning Italian. I really think so. You kind of stole my thunder there, Matt. I'd been planning to say that since I saw Berberian a couple of days ago. Anyway,
This week we have a double feature of films directed by Dario Argento aficionado Peter Strickland. First up is Beberian Sound Studio, a surrealist film starring that guy, Toby Jones, who plays a sound engineer working on what sounds like a vile Italian horror film. As he becomes more and more entrenched in the project, his mental health and moral compass begin to erode. Following that is In Fabric, the magical tale of Marianne Jean-Baptiste trying to find a date, mannequin cunnilingus, and a haunted dress. A haunted dress that kills people. So, but we're going to go with Barbarian Sound Studio first. Who had this on their pile? I certainly did.
I did. I'd heard of this film. So back when I went to a lot of film festivals, I somehow saw something that was adjacent to this somehow, and I can't remember what it was. And I looked through Strickland's filmography, didn't recognize anything, so I have no idea. But I was somehow familiar with this movie, just hadn't seen it before.
I've been kind of a big booster of this film for a while now, trying to get people to see it, and screened it for movie night back in the day as well. So to perhaps a mixed audience reception, but they knew what they were walking into.
yeah, I was going to say one of the common reactions to this film is going to be, "What the fuck was that? Was that even a
Yeah.
horror movie?" And for the record, I don't know if I can actually call this a horror movie or not. But no, Jane and I actually saw it, I guess, when it was relatively new.
Well, no, it was 2012, right? We started seeing each other in 2013.
Yeah, so it
But
was
we
fair.
saw it at our last apartment.
No, I think we actually saw this at your old place. I think.
I don't think so.
I don't. The point is,
I
it's
don't
been a
think so.
while, and when we saw it in the version that apparently was on the British DVD that had no subtitles for anything, which was,
Right.
you know, needless to say, a little bit surreal, but particularly, I think, kind of affected the end of the movie. So it was a worth. I finally got a legit copy a long time ago. I just hadn't gotten around to seeing it again. Was very
with
very
the Italian subtitles this
yes,
time.
with subtitles as an option all the way around. So this was.
There's something I want to say. I can't believe that I might have mentioned this before. I can't believe Amazon hasn't figured out this problem yet. So I watched this on Amazon. Why do we have soft subs over hard subs? Why do
Yes.
they overlap right on top? Criterion
Oh.
Channel does the same thing. So
This
it's
is-
not just Amazon. I had to turn off subtitles because they kept covering up the Italian subtitles. And at first I was like, okay, maybe it's just a few scenes in Italian. I'll
Yep.
just ignore those. Then I'm like, nope. This
They
whole
do it
movie is going to be
over and
yeah.
over and over.
I had
you
these-
can't. Yeah, you can't watch this movie with subtitles on. You just can't.
Yeah.
You're gonna miss 50% of the dialogue.
I had
can't-
the,
I think
It worked
You'd
on
say-
the Blu-ray.
I had
Oh,
the
yeah,
same.
They did
I,
work
DVD
on
was
the
fine.
Blu-ray.
I had the same problem as Shane watching this film. I always watch with closed captioning because my hearing's a little off, thanks to years of sound engineering, funnily enough.
Rock concerts here.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
Age.
But
Age.
but yeah, when
Thanks a lot.
I was speaking for myself on that one, love.
when Amazon puts speaking Italian over the Italian subtitles, it's a little
Isn't that
ridiculous. It really, it was hard for me to watch this film, just because I couldn't understand some of what they were saying, and I didn't have the subtitles to do it because I wanted to see what the Italian subtitles were. So
in case you needed another reason to want to slap the taste out of Bezos' mouth.
Well, I mean, Criterion Channel does the same thing. Netflix puts subs on top when there's credits at the bottom, which seems like an easy solution. I don't know why they haven't figured this out over at Amazon and Criterion.
Well, I mean, recall that at one point Netflix put their source code in the MoMA, deservedly so. So
Yeah.
because it is modern art, and everybody else has just been playing catch up ever since. But in any event,
The
I
film
don't know.
itself.
A certain measure of clanging disorientation may qualify as feature rather than bug in this film.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I have. Go ahead.
I didn't get the joke about the horses, about him thinking it was a horse movie, but that just being part of the title, the equestrian part. I didn't
Mhm.
get that joke at all until after I had seen the movie and read up about it.
Yeah, I got that from the
It was
Wikipedia,
a
and I was
joke?
like, "Oh, God, I'm an idiot."
I
Yeah.
mean, I
Wait.
guess.
The
I mean,
guy,
is
Explain
this a
it.
reference to the Argento animal cycle, or
no, well, the equestrian vortex is probably a reference, but the joke is Gilderoy had mostly worked on nature films. He thought he was going to Italy to edit
yeah.
to do work on a film about horses.
Oh, okay. See, that's what I
understood that.
thought the whole time.
Thank you,
so,
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get that until I read Wikipedia because I did not hear what they were saying for a lot of it.
In my case, I just didn't get it because I'm an idiot. But anyway.
So, one of the things that I love about this film is I've seen it about 4 times now, and for the life of me, I can never remember how it ends. Because it goes into several of these sort of delirious hallucinatory states, and I'm always certain that, it just sort of dissolve. Like, there's an actual burn through of the film at one point. I'm like, oh, right, that's how it ends. No, it's not. It keeps going from there. And then we come back to, supposed reality, except now everyone's speaking in Italian.
Including Toby Jones.
Including Toby Jones. And it struck me this time around that I think the whole film might just be about the hell of post-production.
That tracks, because this is my least favorite part of filmmaking, is the sound design in post. I hate it. And I like this movie a lot, but this movie reminded me why I hate it. And they weren't even doing anything digital. They were doing everything analog, which is even worse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, a lot of this movie is weapons grade analog audio tech porn.
The bit where he's strung the magnetic tape out around different objects in the room to get the distortion on the film.
Cup.
Like a coffee cup.
I will say I had a little bit of a different take on what was going on in the movie itself and the grand scheme, which was I really felt like it was a journey watching a guy who took a job he didn't quite understand and realizing that it may be not only outside of his wheelhouse, but outside of his comfort zone, his moral comfort zone, but continuing to work on the project anyway, either because he's too nice or because he needs the money. I've been on a lot of projects where I've done it for the money and done movies that worked on movies that I did not agree with, like the movie where there's. You remember Loving the Bad Man?
Oh, the one with Stephen Baldwin.
Yes, that.
Yes, that's the movie you worked on that I didn't bother to pick up because
Right.
I haven't found it at the Dollar Tree yet.
I made a trailer for that movie. It's about a woman who is raped and forgives her rapist because of God. And
No.
yeah. And I worked on this film because I needed the money, but I felt like shit the whole time I was doing it. I just felt awful. And I wonder if there's a little bit of that in the Gilderoy character as well.
I don't think there's a little bit of that. I think there's a lot of that. I think that's one of the central points of the film. And I think it comes home in the whole bit with his letters back home about the chaffinches. And because to a large degree, it feels like his culpability in working on this film that is so horrific and so awful and doing his, trying to do his best work on this genuinely vile film is reaching back across, several countries home to start affecting his home life. And that's how they're sort of externalizing the way it's injuring him, and he is becoming sort of culpable in the material that he's working on. And that's why the chaffinches, which were so charming in the first letters, all of a sudden are beheaded and destroyed by magpies.
Yeah.
And the parents are screaming.
And the parents are literally screaming, yeah.
That was a horrifying story.
Yeah, that was possibly the most upsetting part of the movie. I mean, at the same time, I will freely allow that the movie worth noting for our audience, if you haven't actually seen this movie, we never see any of the movie that he's working on except for the opening credits,
Right.
which
Which
are
are all
relief.
surreal.
which are actually a pretty fascinating set of opening credits in their own right. I will have to freely allow that I am the sort of person who would absolutely, in all likelihood, dig the movie that he was actually working on. I think
Yeah.
most of us are. That being said,
No, I'd
No,
avoid it.
I would avoid
Not
it.
me.
A
Like
hot
the
poker to the
plague.
vagina. A hot poker to the
Yeah.
vagina.
No.
That's enough for me to skip a movie.
fair enough. I don't know. It sounds sort of like they're playing like a cross between something on the order of Suspiria, along with one of the sort of haunted girls' schools movies that were a thing in Italy in the 70s and 80s, but also leaning into some of the more torture aspects of stuff like Mark of the Devil, which weirdly enough was actually a lot more of a German thing than an Italian thing. But
It sounded quite a bit, from some of the description of scenes, it sounded a bit more like The Blind Dead to me.
a little
Because
bit of
they're
that
going
there
through
as
the-
well.
They're going through a poultry tunnel? Again, we
Yeah,
never
that's
see
mentioned
these
multiple
things.
times.
We,
Well,
we never see these things, but apparently all the witch corpses are piled up in a poultry tunnel, whatever that might be.
Well, I'm wondering if it just didn't get translated properly.
No, I
That's
think
possible.
that seems pretty deliberate.
Weird.
Strickland, the director here, has a lot of playfulness kind of running under the hood. It's a lot more overt in his later pictures, The Duke of Burgundy, but especially in Fabric, of course, which we're going to talk
about
later. There is a lot of deadpan surrealist humor, running along with this thing. I don't. Like I say, this is a fascinating movie. I will freely allow I am not sure I entirely get it. I don't know quite what the message is supposed to be, but at the same time, I find it interesting that this movie plays a little bit more like an homage, not so much to Argento as to Fulci, or at least in the movie that they're making.
Fulci is such a visual director, it's kind of hard to tell that without actually seeing some of the film. But yeah, I see your point.
Maybe a bit of Lamberto Bava in there as well.
I think a little bit of everybody is in there. I mean,
a little bit of everybody in there. Of course, his subsequent film after this, The Duke of Burgundy, was he was on record that it was a Jess Franco homage, but also I think there was a fair chunk of Valerian Borowczyk in there as well.
I didn't see Jess Franco in that at all, but I guess I haven't seen that much Jess Franco.
Yeah. Amusingly more acclaimed than all Jess Franco movies combined. And that's over 250 pictures. And then, of course, in Fabric, well, we'll get back to In Fabric. But
right.
I don't know, like I say, this is this is a film from someone with our vocabulary.
That is true. That is definitely true. I have to admit something. I did not particularly like this film. I
Me
did
too. Raising my hand, waving it.
Okay, good. I'm not alone.
This is my third time to watch it. Well, second and a half. The first time, I thought that I'd fallen asleep during it because, like Wagner, I didn't remember the end. So I was like, I must have fallen asleep. And so we started to watch it on Saturday, and I conked. I mean, I was just out, but I was tired anyway. And then I decided I'd watch it this afternoon, and I started dozing off. But I did finish it. I mean, I was
well. It's definitely a slow burn,
and it is. It's definitely languid, as you said, but it also is just so vile, and he's so trapped there. I think he's living in the studio. I don't think it takes place anywhere else.
No, he goes back to
he has like an apartment or something. The
right,
way it's
because he opens the door and it's there.
That's
editing.
a hallucination.
I thought it was an apartment in the building, wasn't it? I know that was part of at the end, like his nightmare or the dream sequence, but I thought it happened a couple of times.
I think it was like a rental cottage.
Yeah, the way it's edited, it makes it seem like it's all one continuous location. I think it's purposely put together that way to make it feel like he's living there, but he definitely has his own living space. He'll be doing something at work, and then there'll be like a match cut to something he's doing at home.
And apparently there actually is a stage adaptation of this, which I would be very curious to give a look. Of course,
fairly easy to do, I guess, when you think about it. One place.
I
No,
think
no.
my ultimate issue is that I was bored for a lot of this movie.
Yeah.
I did not I understood once the surrealism came into play like really heavily. I understood what they were going for. I understood what kind of movie this was, but it didn't hit for me. It was I don't know. There was something off about it in that it felt almost like they were using surrealism as a crutch in order to tell a story that wasn't quite there to begin with. There's not a lot of plot. It's more like an excuse to make references to a lot of Italian horror that he obviously knows quite a bit about. And I'm not sure that this movie actually had a purpose or a point beyond that.
Well, I have to disagree on that in particular. The I don't quite have all my thoughts together on this, so feel free to jump in if you prefer.
Okay.
I can absolutely see where you're coming from. The first time I watched the film, the entire time going through, I'm like, oh, okay, now the horror part is start. No, 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 it's not. No, okay, now
That's
we're
what I was
back,
doing
back
too
in
the
the
whole
editing
time.
booth. Yeah, we're back in the editing booth, and really toxic relationships between all of the voice actors and oh wait, something's nope, not again. And it got all the way through it, and it got to the end, and I am actively fascinated by films I don't understand, and I actually I will repeatedly go back to movies I can't figure out because I can't figure them out, and this I count as one of them, largely because of that. The reason I categorize this as a horror movie is because of Gilderoy's perspective in the whole thing, especially with what Jen was saying about him being trapped, and it has these trappings going on around it, and they are referencing the Italian horror movies, but I think, Nate, you actually hit on the point of the story. It doesn't have so much of a storyline as much as it is a contemplation of a person trapped in this particular environment and how it affects him, and how he, every effort he has is futile in trying to get out, not from a physical, like you're locked in the building with a killer aspect, but from a large part of his being trapped, I think, just has to be put down to him being a very polite and reserved Englishman who doesn't want to cause anybody any trouble. And even after that starts wearing away, he gets stuck in this environment and it starts eating away at him. And they keep saying how, you polite Englishmen, you don't know how to live your life. And in some degree, it's also a polite English gentleman losing his innocence at the age of 45. Because you get the feeling this guy, most of the sound editing he does is little nature documentaries because that's what he knows, and he lives at home with his mother and his sound equipment. And now he's thrown into this world of this absolutely vile... The main villain, what was his actual position? Is he the producer?
He's the producer.
Yeah.
He was the producer.
Santini, not
No,
Santini.
Francesco.
Francesco, yeah.
Francesco, yes. This absolutely vile individual who abuses his actors and just wants everyone to do their damn job, whatever your excuse may be. And it's sort of a moving from his little shed out in the back of his house in an idyllic countryside into the real world of filmmaking, quote unquote, and discovering it being an absolutely vile mess of people.
Yeah,
but he became vile himself. I mean,
and that's
the way
what that
he
does
tortured
to
that
you.
girl in the sound booth. I mean,
Exactly.
he used sound,
and that was
which
the point of the
his
story.
art,
That was the
to
point of the
hurt
story.
her.
That's what that being in that environment does to this poor innocent Gilderoy character. He
As a
isn't
matter
a
of fact,
hero at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, and
No,
the
he isn't. And I
movie's-
want to actually point out the spider. Sorry, babe. I wanted to point out the spider. At first, he finds it and he's playing with it, and then he gently takes it outside and goes, blows it off his hands.
Mm-hmm.
The next, he's picking it up in a piece of paper and kind of holding it away from himself, and he, kind of shoves it out the window and blows on the paper to make sure it's gone. Sees it a third time. He looks at it, and then he just walks away. Just wanders off from it. Like he's
it's the
like, there's no
chaffinches.
saving this. Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
saving this.
It's the
There's
it's the
nothing I can
chaffinches all
do.
over.
I mean,
And so
not
he
for
just
Not
Yeah.
for nothing is the movie usually characterized as a psychological thriller as opposed to a horror movie per se. I would call it a horror movie based purely on tone, but at the same time, I find it interesting that if this movie didn't have audio, it would be G-rated, um, uh,
Mm.
or PG at worst. It's
Well, there's all that
it,
violence to vegetables.
well,
Yeah, I
there,
know.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
it's like a vegan
Slapping
snuff
around the
film.
melons.
yeah, you
It
see,
was a
film.
vegan snuff film.
The watermelon Foley scene. I think I might have mentioned this on this podcast before. It reminded me of a sketch by this sketch group called Human Giant, which Aziz Ansari used to be part of.
Mhm.
There was a sketch where on screen someone's cutting a head of cabbage, and the Foley guys backstage are stabbing a guy to get the sound. Which I thought was a brilliant sketch. It was a whole sketch with all these different scenes of them doing this, and the poor people backstage just getting mauled to create all these innocent sounds.
See, yeah, I thought this movie was going in a very different direction than it ultimately did. I thought that it was going somewhere where it was going to, I don't know, ultimately become horror or surrealist horror or something where the film takes over and it ingests him essentially. And that happens to a certain extent, but nowhere near what I thought it was going to be. It was a much more subdued film than I expected.
That's fair.
I mean, it was Strickland's second feature, but it still has a definite air of, there is an aspect of calling card about it. Like I say, it's the only horror movie that I've ever seen that is not a horror movie, period. And at the same time, it's a movie about a visual medium that's all audio. It's one of those things where you kind of almost imagine this is the technique that Strickland thinking. This is the technique I want to undertake. I want a movie about X that doesn't use the trappings of X, and then sort of reverse engineering how to construct the story from that. And it ends up being this weird, disturbing little character study. I don't. I still find it a fascinating movie. I don't absolutely adore it. But I do like it a lot. I again, as with Matt, I like the enigma of it. I'm not sure I get it. Then again, I'm not sure I'm supposed to get it. I am comfortable with a certain measure of ambiguity. As
I was gonna say, I think everybody gets what they want, and I got a nap.
I mean, I did like the film in general. I actually thought the surrealism kind of undercut the point a little bit. Like we're seeing this guy descend into madness, and I don't know, the having the movie finally be confusing in the last act, I feel like almost made me lose focus on what this guy was going through. It was more like it was almost distracting in a way, and little details like his flight having never existed, or that maybe that was just the production company screwing with him. But details like that to make it seem like he had never actually flown there or whatever, I found that more distracting than, I guess, intriguing.
might be juggling a few too many plates at the same time.
It's
I liked it, but I like little details like that out of nowhere that I can't explain. So I'm kind of a unique case there.
And also, I think I like the aspect, and this is kind of consistent through a lot of Strickland's work, as we'll get to later, making a serious kind of aspect of horror out of little microaggressions. Everybody getting way too up in your shit. That's horrifying, and this movie gets that.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting that this. One of the things that brought this movie to my attention was it was featured pretty upfront in an issue of Rue Morgue, which is a horror movie magazine, and was absolutely singing its praises. And as Jenner puts it, it's not exactly a horror movie. It's kind of homeless. It's
a horror
clear
movie
at all.
tonally, but if you're referring directly to the text of the movie, except for the surrealist stuff, it doesn't fit the boxes of a horror movie. It's a little bit surrealist. It's not supernatural in any way, except in the movie inside the movie. It doesn't have any actual violence in it. Well, it has a reference to sexual assault.
Yeah.
We do see sort of a scene. I mean, it's sort of almost like a dream sequence. We see a stabbing about to happen, and then we see them doing Foley for it, but it's not really clear who's who's in that scene. I mean, it looks like it's Gilderoy.
Yeah, so it's definitely horror adjacent, but what else it's adjacent to, I'll be damned if I can figure out.
I think one thing I hope we can all agree on, though, is that Toby Jones was absolutely excellent in it.
Oh,
Oh,
it's
so
absolutely.
good.
It's so
Yeah.
nice to see him not in a that guy part. Like, wasn't he recently in? God, I want to say he was in one of the new Jurassic Park movies.
He's in the Marvel movies as a minor
he's in
character.
the
Yeah,
He's a
he's
Hydra guy.
Armin Scholler, I think.
Something like
Zola.
Arnim
Zola.
Arnim Zola.
Zola, that's it. Yeah.
Basically, Russia's answer to
Or-
Max Headroom.
Well, no,
And he was the second
Hydra
guy-
scientist.
Or
Yeah,
Hydra.
he had the-
yeah, he's not
Hydra.
Russian. He is
He's
Swiss.
German.
And unfortunately for him, he was the second guy to play Truman Capote recently, or somewhat recently,
Yeah.
right behind the
Was-
Oscar-winning performance. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hoffman win the Oscar for that?
Hoffman won the Oscar for that. Yep.
What was the other film?
What was it called? I never saw it.
Oh.
It wasn't called Capote. It was,
Capote was the Hoffman one. I forget the other. Damn it.
but it came out like right after. It was like Deep Impact and Armageddon, like same
Yeah.
plot coming out twice or something.
It's funny.
Somehow everybody wanted to make a Capote movie that year.
Toby
And-
Jones
and-
looks so much more like Capote than
Yeah, he
Yeah.
really
more Hoffman.
he really does. It's nice to see Toby Jones with a lead, and whatever we may think of the movie as a whole, his performance never fails to convince. I mean, realistically, you could say that about basically everything the guy does, but he gets an absolute showcase in this.
Was he
Yeah,
in?
he was great.
Was he in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy?
I
Yes.
believe so. Yes.
Yeah, I
seems
thought
like
I-
the kind of movie he would be in. Oh, the movie was
Okay.
called Infamous. The
Ah,
Timothy
that was
Dalton
it.
movie, which
Ah.
I never saw.
No. Love Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Mhm.
Can't wait to see the 4K that's coming out pretty soon.
You know, this movie really did make me appreciate the lengths Italians will go to do ADR.
Yeah.
I've
I
never
mean-
done ADR myself. Is that what it's like? Is it that dehumanizing and that separated from the actual from acting and performing?
Well,
it's important to
I'm assuming it's-
understand- Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm assuming it's a heightened version of it, but it just seems like an awful process.
It's
Well, I mean-
mostly
Fun
it's
movie.
mostly just a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun doing ADR and all sorts of voiceover work. I've always enjoyed that work, and never really had a problem with, like, it is repetitive. You
Mhm.
listen to the same scene over and over, and you say the same line over and over to make sure you got it right. And usually you do more takes in a sound recording session than you do on set, unless you're Stanley Kubrick. But
Well, I'm sure Jenner can speak to this, but it's the reason it's Italian is that until recently the Italians didn't ever record sound on set
Correct.
because they usually had a multinational cast, and apparently historically it's because they inherited a lot of the old Hollywood equipment when the Italian movie system started up, which was way too damn loud to record sound near. So every single line had to be ADR'd, and every single sound effect. There was no boom mic on set when they did a lot of the filming.
Leading to the observation that I think I've actually made on this program before, or if not here, then certainly on Bastards, which is if you watch the English language, like the dubbed versions of most Italian horror movies, the lead's lip movements will match. But if you watch the Italian version, all of the supporting characters' lip movements will match.
It's really disorienting because you feel like the sound is slightly off because sometimes it's in sync and sometimes it's completely random according to what the lip flaps are doing, and really throws you for a while.
And of course, really waiting for somebody to dig out some more documentation on Orson Welles' third or fourth career as a uncredited director of the English language movie versions of Italian movies in Italy in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Well, does anybody have any final thoughts on Beberian Sound Studio before we take our break?
I still continue to promote this guy, but it's a bit of a lost effort because you can't get it's a movie that's impossible to spoil except by saying that it's nothing's actually going to happen in it. And once you know viscerally that nothing's going to happen in it and you watch through it a second time, you can kind of appreciate what the story is doing. But it's a real hard sell to tell someone, okay, you're going to have to watch this movie twice.
Yeah, no, I've seen this movie twice, and it still hasn't been spoiled for me.
Yeah, but
No,
I literally could not. I mean, this is the third or fourth time I've seen the movie. I literally could not have told you how the movie ends, and I made a point of remembering it this time, and we'll see how long it sticks in my head.
no, I really like this movie. I can understand. No onus on those who did not. Absolutely. At the same time,
It just wasn't for me.
even y'all have to acknowledge that it definitely shows the marks of an extremely talented filmmaker behind it. Whatever they may have endeavored to use that talent in the service of in this instance. But like I say, sign of very good things to come, which we will doubtless get back to in the second half.
All right. Well, on that, let's go ahead and take our break. We'll be right back. And we're back. Next up, we've got a film with a bit more plot than the previous one. In Fabric.
Just a little.
In
Plot.
Fabric, another surrealist tale, this time about a haunted dress and its hapless victims, the bizarre department store employees who are constantly speaking in riddles, and the poor sap who is forced to wear the dress at a stag party. Who had this on their pile? I did.
I had this on my pile.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard of it. I went in. I literally didn't even read the Amazon plot description. Just went in cold.
Yeah, I actually bought this one offline, off Amazon, which I almost never do. Like, bought a physical copy to be sent to me from Amazon because I
Oh.
couldn't find it anywhere for sale. Usually I wait for these things to turn up in dollar bins and the like, but I wasn't going to wait on this one. And then it sat on my shelf for 6 months. So
It's good to have it when you need it. Is my general principle with a lot of stuff. But
Yeah, it was not on our pile. We'd seen it. Oh goodness, it was about
6
months
six
ago
or
or
8 months
less.
ago, something like that.
I remember telling Connie she had to see it. This is my best friend, and she was like, "Okay, yeah, this is perfect."
really,
Oh yeah.
You know, I liked this movie the first time that I saw it. I loved it on this viewing. It makes me think of somebody doing a prequel to Roald Dahl's The Witches, but set in Argento's Three Mothers universe, but with a plot that was lifted from one of the Amicus Portmanteau films from the early 70s. There's a lot of stuff in here.
I will say, from literally the first 3 frames of this film, I went, "Oh, it's a giallo."
Yeah.
Because I have never seen a film start out more clearly a giallo than this one. Switchblade opens, starts opening a box. There you go. Okay, we're in a giallo territory.
I thought the same thing. Immediately thought of an Italian horror influence in the opening credits, with a heavy 70s influence in the design throughout.
And the soundtrack has a very 70s giallo-ish, Morricone-ish quality to it as well. Actually, one thing that just occurred to me about Berberian that I probably should have mentioned is the traditional black gloves normally worn by the killer in giallo were only used to operate the projector in Beberian Sound Studio.
And we never saw the projectionist.
We never saw the projectionist. So that's just an amusing little grace note. But in Fabric, definitely leans even further into that specifically Italianate horror influence, but also a lot of covert English horror influence as well, not least for the setting.
The first time we see the dress is absolutely gorgeous. There's an absolutely gorgeous shot of 3 mirrors, and Marianne Jean-Baptiste is looking at it, but there are also 2 other sides which are split screens, which eventually fade away. And that entire composition just had me floored. It was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, and it was so subtle I hadn't even noticed it the first time, but I definitely noticed it this time.
And
Th-
different things are happening in the background of each mirror, and it's just very, very interesting.
This is a physically really, really beautiful movie. Like I say, this was more overtly funny, more overtly plot driven, but still, you know, just beautifully composed kind of capitalization on the promise that Strickland showed in Beberian Sound Studio.
Mhm.
It is just a physically beautiful movie.
I will say, as someone whose favorite color is red, and like I borderline fetishize red things, this movie made me really uncomfortable. I will also say I like this movie a lot. I never want to see this movie again. I watched I watched I want to say 35 movies this October for my Halloween marathon. Not a single one of those movies made me as uncomfortable and creeped out and scared as this movie. And I can't even really put my finger on why, because this isn't really that scary of a movie in a traditional way, but it gets under your skin. And it's very unsettling and creepy.
You said skin, because skin rashes. Well,
Yeah, I don't like those
any
either.
Portrayals of skin rashes, they will freak me out, and yeah, it did. But I didn't hate it. I liked it quite a lot, and was happy to watch it again.
So,
Something
did anyone... Go ahead.
Something I've noticed about Peter Strickland's work between this and Berberian is that almost every moment is tense, whether it's the little stuff or the big stuff. There is an incredible amount of tension in every scene that he composes, and I think that would lend a lot to the uncomfortable nature of the film. The horrific elements are partially because of that.
Yeah, there are a lot of aspects to this. It reminded me of one of my very favorite writers, the British author of strange stories, Robert Aikman, who is notable for having written lots of stories where you're never quite sure exactly what it was that happened, but the way that it happened, whatever it was, really gets under your skin and kind of sticks with you. Uh, yeah, this is a deeply unsettling movie for reasons that from moment to moment are apt to be very hard to put your finger on, and at the same time, it's really really funny. And at the same and even further, the relationship the relationships in the movie are really really sharply observed as well. There is a buffet of stuff going on in this movie.
I think the humor can't be discounted, because it seems to me like the central concept of the film being about a killer dress is so absurd. It's treated with absolute straight-faced seriousness throughout. But what does the dress do? Well, it kills several people and destroys washing machines. Which
and it moves by itself too, which looks kind of silly. And I mean, it's a campy premise at its core,
very
but,
campy.
but it doesn't feel like it when you're seeing what's going on.
And maybe it suffocated a canary, or maybe it just scared the canary to death, or maybe it drains the canary's life like it did that bowl of fruit. Yeah. Whatever is the deal with the dress, there is something deeply, deeply wrong with the dress.
This movie could have been called Death Dress. The dress that the dress that eats. It doesn't eat, but the dress that kills.
The dress that dresses.
I actually had the same thought about 3/4 of the way through this most recent.
Oh my
viewing.
god, this would make an excellent pairing with Deathbed. You're right. That.
Well, it's certainly more entertaining and absorbing than Deathbed. No pun
you
intended.
bite your tongue.
I've sat through Deathbed. I know what that movie's like. I'm being eaten alive.
No.
That's something he says it with that intonation as he's being eaten alive in Deathbed. I remember that.
I liked this a lot more than Berberian, mostly because of the plot. That there were plot elements, there were characters with growth that had actual backstories and interesting motivations, and they did stuff. I really liked Marianne Jean-Baptiste. I loved her son, their dynamic. I really thought that
was so awful to her.
He was.
But it was observed so sharply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do I know her from? because I know.
Fat Man.
Sorry.
Fat Man.
Marianne
the movie with-
Jean-Baptiste.
You haven't seen Fat Man with?
Apparently
Mel
not.
Gibson. Mel
Mel
Gibson as
Gibson?
Santa Claus.
Oh no, I haven't seen that yet.
It's actually really, really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
It's weird. I feel like she was in a whole bunch of Doctor Who or something like that, but I'm looking over her listing here, and I don't see any place I would have encountered her before.
Secrets and Lies is where I know her from.
Yeah, the Mike Lee film.
The Cell?
Was she in The
I haven't
Cell?
seen. I haven't seen The Cell, but it's on her
The Cell,
filmography.
really?
Yeah.
She's a pretty reliable that lady. She's been around for quite a while now. But yeah, I think it was Secrets and Lies that I first spotted her as well. But yeah, tremendously good actress. Just a beautiful performance of someone who is getting, as I said earlier, microaggressions from every conceivable direction.
Her bosses. Oh, nightmare bosses.
the
And everybody was
bosses.
into everybody's
Yeah.
business.
There were-
I was like,
You see, that's one of the central things I'm saying that really brings out that this is a comedy. That they have this
it is funny.
weird ass surreal employee interview and assessment in which they're noting down the color of the van in her dream. And it's what color was the van?
What is it? The Weigman's wavelength or whatever it is that
Yeah.
with that one icon that I want to pause the screen for just to read all of the stuff that is built into that big circular mandala of what constitutes the Weigman's
And they're
wavelength.
criticizing her
And
for
all
not...
of the stores and businesses had such British names.
Mhm.
Like, the
Dentley
weird,
and Soapers.
Yes. And Weigman's wave. Well, I don't remember what it was, but yeah.
I loved the bosses. I thought that they were an incredible, almost indictment of a consumerist society, which is
Yes.
there's an undercurrent of that throughout the film.
I think it's actually pretty overt.
Okay, yeah.
That's not even an undercurrent. That's just a current.
all the way up to the two ladies beating the hell out of each other over who gets to pay first. But it's something that I found I did not get at first that this was a comedy, and it wasn't until we found out the previous death, the original model who wore the dress. We find out she was killed. Wait for it, at a zebra crossing. A zebra crossing. She was killed at a zebra crossing in the dress, and that was the first kill. That is when I realized this is a comedy, because that is absurd.
Well,
wait, I'm sorry. You
Well,
you are
no,
aware
a zebra
that
crossing is a crosswalk.
a zebra crossing is a
England.
crosswalk. That's what they call the striped lines on the pavement. in
Oh,
Britain.
is that? Oh,
Yeah, she wasn't
yeah.
I
trampled to
didn't know
death
that
by
either.
zebra.
no, that one
Oh.
actually, that one took me a second as well.
I
Ooh.
explained it to you,
Yes.
my love.
No, I was getting it right when you explained it to me. But no, at the same time,
So
the fact that they should lean into that in the first place, the fact that detail is in there, and knowing that the film is going to be distributed internationally, it's not the joke that we think it is, but it's still a joke.
I mean, for me, it was the washing machine, which was simultaneously hilarious and fucking terrifying. I don't know what it was about that washing machine.
Was
It
terrifying.
was scary, but it was also funny because it was just so over the top. But it just kept going and going and going, and just kept getting more and more weird as it kept moving. It was just so unsettling.
It's so funny that it had its revenge on the washing machine repairman.
So I want to talk
It was like
about
a targeted attack.
I want to talk about the washing machine repairman for a minute.
Because it's
my
worth noting
favorite.
that this movie basically is two stories on the same theme, with the split just a little over halfway through. And then we get to Reg Speaks, washing machine repairman. Mesmerizing
Yes.
washing machine
So
repairman.
not to put too fine a point on it. Reg was talking those women off, right?
As
Was
far as I
anyone
could
else
tell.
getting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like
And-
women loved him because of his hypnotizing tech speak voice.
Yes.
Oh,
And he
I thought that was just he didn't know he was doing
No,
that.
the first time he
Well,
did it,
I don't think
but
he was
then,
doing it deliberately. I think it's just a thing that happens when he talks about what he does.
Well, except then the second time he does it, I think it was much more intentional, which makes me wonder, are we supposed to consider with the first woman who was plainly making a pass at him, was he actually cheating on his fiancée with her? Does that count?
Maybe.
I'm gonna say
You know,
no.
I'm gonna.
Personally,
I don't think so. I don't think he even knew what he was doing, but apparently it worked for. But you know,
I mean,
we went and looked up some of the terminology,
The
and
wig
some of
wag.
his things like the wig wag thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, there were several references to it in the movie, but there was an actual
Wikipedia
entry, and it pretty much described that it was part of a whirlpool washer, but that was the only reference to it. So I wonder if somebody went into Wikipedia, a fan, or maybe one of the people that worked on the movie, and put it in.
Last reference, or the last edit on that Wikipedia entry was 11 months ago. Recall that this is a 2018
Precisely.
film. We are still unconvinced whether or not a wig wag is a real thing in washing machines.
it's so ridiculous. It has to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, recall that the English have a game where a googly is a thing that can happen.
Not just the English, that's cricket. I actually had my South African friend explain cricket to me the other day. So now I theoretically understand cricket. Theoretically.
Oh, I try to play. I have Xbox Game Pass, and there's a cricket game on there. I try to play. I have no idea what's going on. I know there's a wicket. You're supposed to knock it down. You're supposed to run around bases, I think. But yeah.
Was your wicket sticky?
Well, no, you can't have a sticky wicket.
I have no idea what that
cheating.
means. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't even know what that was.
I have a story about I got a poster that had a whole bunch of like world cinema things you check off as you see each of them, and one of the movies on it was a Bollywood film called Lagan, which turns out to be based on a historical event, but it is literally every underdog baseball movie made in the 80s, in which they just recreated an 80s baseball movie with cricket. You know, it's the snobs who are the English who are a Lagan is a tax, who are charging this little middle of nowhere town in India for the yearly tax, and they challenge them to a cricket game for the value of the taxation. And the little village has to get together, all the misfits. You know, they got the one guy who they make a fielder because he owns chickens and is having to constantly chase chickens around his backyard. And they all bring their unique skills to it. And I'm like, okay, so this is just a baseball movie. But at least at the end of it, I will understand cricket. At the end of that movie, I had no idea what the fuck was going on.
I think that one might be on the pile now, but even so.
It was actually a good movie, but
yeah, we should definitely add that to the pile.
Yeah, the point is there's a lot of weird terminology. You can make up weird things, and maybe and you can. There should be a game where it's like, is this something the English actually say, or did we make it up? I know there's lots of strange stuff, and there are also lots of strange parts to a lot of esoteric or rarefied devices as well. So I'd allow for the possibility the wigwag is an actual thing. I'd allow for the possibility that a wigwag is not an actual thing.
Y'all Google it and make your own decisions.
Now, of course,
I say.
Now, of course, one of the things that I notice about Reg Speaks is he mesmerizes himself when he goes on about the parts as well. Basically,
he's participating.
Yes, exactly.
I just thought he was droning on, and they just liked it. Not that it was,
intentionally sexual.
Well, yeah.
I for some reason thought it was somehow like the magic of the dress reaching out and doing something. I never got that he was talking them off, although it makes more sense than the dress for whatever reason causing him to hypnotize people with his text speak.
Well, now I mean that's the thing is I think it may be an instance of basically two completely independent and unrelated supernatural things happening to go on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Which is how I thought. Yeah.
How did?
I mean, if it's a world with haunted dresses, of course it has mesmeric washing machine repairman. that just follows logically.
How did everybody feel about the sponge bath scene?
Ooh,
I'm
that
I'm in I'm
Oh,
intrigued.
uncomfortable, I
Yeah.
guess. I mean, that was a
I mean,
serious merkin.
Is that the
Yeah.
reason why this movie's NC-17? Because that's what it said when I popped it up on Amazon, that it was
I
rated
mean, it would
NC-17.
it would
That's the only
have
thing I
to
could think
be.
of that is objectionable, but I mean, it's pretty graphic, but it's also an inanimate object, so
For our listeners, the scene is the workers at the department
Dress shop.
store, the dress shop, are giving a sponge bath to a nude mannequin, which has pubes and what looks like a fully working vagina, I guess.
that's menstruating.
That's menstruating,
Yes,
and
that's menstruating.
and then the only guy that works there, as far as I can tell, masturbates to it. It's a very it's a very off-putting and yet interesting scene, and I'm just wondering what everybody else's take is on it.
I just thought it went so over the top. I mean, what with the slow mo of the white strings flying through the air. I just took it as a kind of broad pseudo transgressive comedy.
Yeah, that's the way I took it as well. I thought it was
Yeah.
a additional punchline in the middle of all of this.
It had so much muchness to it. I had to take it as a joke.
Mhm.
But all of the people in the department store were like aliens. I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
speak like normal humans. It was beautiful. I loved the way they spoke
was
and
supposed to be an
moved and
Italian
acted, except
accent,
for the
right?
guy. He was really
Well, it looks like the
yes.
actress playing her is named Fatma Mohammed, so it sounds like she's Romanian. I mean, if anyone talked to me like that while I was trying to buy a piece of clothing, I'd be like, "Get the fuck away from me." I'd be like, I would be like, "Ma'am, this is a Target. Get away from me." But they spoke that way for the entire movie, and it was
And I love that nobody even that it was just a thing that was going on. Everybody just responded to them as though they were speaking normally.
yeah, they just responded with their normal speech.
If anyone actually spoke that way to me, I would go, "What?"
Come again?
Yeah.
What is that? What do you mean?
Their dialogue without subtitles would have been impossible to follow. I had to
It's like-
read that to figure out what they were saying.
I would have expected them to try to sell me some literature.
But they did sound very alien, even though they were
Mhm.
using English words. They sounded like, an alien that landed on Earth and had no idea how to put words together.
It's
And
like it got
just
it went back and forth through Babelfish a few dozen times, and this was what you came
Yeah.
out the other end with.
You see, I always wanted to write a horror movie like that. Something that wasn't dubbed but seemed like it was dubbed, but dubbed, by somebody who didn't understand the language at all. But just take a script, put it into Google Translate into some other language like Russian, put it back through Google Translate, put it through Google Translate again, et cetera, until it's all. Well, the word for that I always use for dialogue that I like, the stuff that's heavy on the tongue, the toothsome stuff. I really, just as a thing in its own right, love the dialogue from the Dentley and Soper, witches and man witch.
My man witch.
Oh, okay.
Slathered in his own mayonnaise, but still.
I'm sorry, I think
Sorry.
My favorite bit of that was just the moment we get where he has that one customer in the leg lock, and and all the other shoppers just sort of step around him and move along.
And like I say, having gone through a lot of Black Fridays in retail, there are parts of this movie that hit hard for me.
Yeah, that riot. Because
that
of the
riot is like,
customers. Yeah.
I haven't seen that, but it's gotten close.
There's something
Wow.
magnificent about that riot in that this is ostensibly a horror film in a way. And to have what is your ultimate, what in a regular horror film would be your villain? Would be the witches, I would assume, that are running this shop that's sending out dresses to people. But in this movie, they get taken out by a freaking riot of sales-hungry ladies who want nothing more than to purchase their items as quickly as possible and then just steal shit. They just start
Yeah, they
taking,
just start smashing displays and getting in
and,
there.
I
and
mean,
suddenly all of that
Yeah.
frilly dialogue means nothing. It's just the
the
place starts catching on fire.
Yeah, the sales witches are definitely the villains, but it's a very passive sort of villainy. They're not really doing anything except putting things out into the world that people wanted, uh, or thought that they wanted.
I did have one question. Why was the sales lady so upset that Babs was wearing the dress? I didn't really understand that.
It's not supposed to come back.
Yeah,
just the fact that it
they
was in
put
the
it
store.
out there. They put it out. They put this evil out there. They don't want it themselves.
Yeah,
I
and look
think.
what happened. It ended
Right,
up
it burnt down their store.
Mhm.
Okay, I guess I didn't catch that.
Yeah, they created or they distributed a thing of malevolence, but they themselves were not, exempt from receiving it if they happened to be in the vicinity.
I did like that. I like how the dress intentionally burned the store down. Like the dress in and of itself was a character. It
Oh,
was,
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
and it did a very good job of convincing me that it was a scary dress that was going to kill people. I was shocked.
I have to.
I was shocked when Marianne Jean-Baptiste died in a car crash because of that thing. I did
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
see
but
that
see,
coming.
did it die? Oh, she put it in a trunk. But see, then the mannequin was what kind of killed her,
Yeah,
not the
but
dress.
I think
Yeah.
that was
She
the
wasn't even
dress's
wearing it, but she was
influence.
trying to give it away.
Yeah.
In this case, I think correlation is causation, or
Well-
at least a strong argument for causation.
It's also a little bit of a psycho moment because I thought we were going to be staying with her for the whole film.
Yeah, so did I.
I did
Yeah.
not expect her to exit midway through. I mean, it's not psycho in that it's first 20 minutes, but about midpoint of the film, suddenly she's out the door and we're on to the next person. I have to say, as much as they did an excellent job making this a scary dress that kills people, there is something also inherently hilarious about the couple of moments where the dress is looming over people as they sleep, and it's plainly just on a hanger.
But at the same time, most of those were just beautiful shots.
They were, but it is still inherently hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's also when the dress like scooches under the door. That's always funny.
Yeah.
Oh, and when it attacks them, they're just dropping it,
Yeah.
and it floats down onto them.
I was
So-
I was
Also,
really
again-
hoping. I was hoping for a Leslie Nielsen moment of fighting with an inanimate object.
That would have
No,
been fun.
but again, even the dress attack shots, and yeah, saying it sounds absolutely absurd, but good lord, they're beautifully shot. Like the bit where it tries to, suffocate Gwendolyn Christie. Again, Gwendolyn frickin' Christie is in this movie, and it took 2 scenes the first time that I saw her before I realized that it was her, even having seen her name in the credits. But
yeah, she is super hot in this.
Yeah, I did not recognize
mean-
her at first. I did not.
No, but again, making a serious impression as another in the parade of people who are making either overt passive aggression or active aggression on poor Sheila in this movie. No, Sheila gets a bad lot, especially since things were starting to look up because her relationship with Zach, or at least what we saw of it, was actually really kind of beautifully done.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about Adonis.
I really like.
Oh, Adonis is great.
I really like them as a couple, but good lord, Adonis. One, I like that it sets us up to expect that that's the name that he's using for his Lonely Hearts ad as opposed to his actual name. But it turns out no, that's his actual name, which is a thing.
And he
has other
smashed
dates,
a
and he can
stink
slot her
bug
in.
the middle of a restaurant. A stink bug. That was
Yeah.
Nobody reacted though.
That was just a beautifully horrible date.
Yeah, I have to say that bit in particular is the reason I will never have my wife watch this movie. She has too much sympathetic embarrassment. She can't watch scenes of people
Oh.
being embarrassed. So that date alone would have just been utterly cringeworthy for her. It got me, and I'm not nearly as susceptible.
I understand. I get that too, but I don't know. I get maybe it's because I'd seen it before. But yeah, he was horrible.
Yeah, he's awful.
But that was the nice thing is that they did the same date in the same restaurant at the same table, same positions, and then they had that sort of
With the same joke about
Same,
the pudding.
yeah, same coupon.
Yeah, the same book, yeah, same coupons, but Zach's reactions to everything that Sheila talks about, or the way he listens to her and everything like that. It was such a nice balance. It's like, oh, thank goodness. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
we had to see, the terrible guy and then really appreciate that Zach was great. So
Making it just that much more shocking when Sheila dies in the car crash.
Yeah, like 5 minutes later.
yeah,
Yeah.
5 minutes later.
yeah.
Yeah, but it was a lovely relationship while it lasted. A lot more functional than Vince and Gwen. Certainly a lot more functional than
Ugh.
Sheila and Adonis, and
Well,
arguably more functional than Reg and Babs. Although Reg and Babs actually have a really lived-in dynamic between the two of them as well.
Oh, they have a great sex scene too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's just like
Oh.
just having a conversation while he's just pumping on top of her, fully clothed.
See, he should have
But
spoken to
I
her.
liked them though. I mean, I really did. You could tell that they cared a lot for each other and wanted to make each other happy. But they'd just been together so long.
Yeah, the
so,
scene where they cuddled was really touching, I thought.
Yeah.
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 No, it's like I say, this is a movie that observes relationship because I'm not sure if Stash and Clive are openly together or covertly together or just nobody cares, but they're actually a really interesting couple in their own right. They definitely, however they may put themselves out into the world around them, they are definitely deeply, deeply simpatico.
Yeah.
And I guess it's Stash is the one with the freaking amazing teeth. So, but yeah, his vocal delivery. I want that guy doing audiobooks.
All right. Well, it's about that time. Anybody have final thoughts they want to share on In Fabric?
Very briefly, just a question of what everyone thought about the final concluding moments of the film after the fire takes down the store and we see where that dumbwaiter goes every night.
Love it.
I was
Perfect.
I mean, it was cool. I mean, is she like the devil dragging them down to hell or something? I mean, they're all making dresses out of their blood, apparently.
yeah, it felt like purgatory in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was, but I do know the one thing that I noted is that there were a whole lot of empty sewing
That's
machines
the bit that
underneath them.
really stuck with
So,
me there.
The
That's
dress was not done, and the lady, the mannequin lady or whatever, the lady with the mannequin, she smiled. She was happy seeing those empty seats. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know if
there's
she
so
was
much.
happy that they were empty, or she was happy that they were going to not be empty for long.
yeah.
I mean,
I
the
would
fireman
I would
finds the
tend to
dress at
favor
the
the
end.
latter. No, that
I did too.
that
Really.
is a very solid, chilling note to end the movie on.
Yeah. Sorry,
I really love that bit.
What did you say, Shane?
Oh, the fireman finds the dress at the end, so it's definitely
Yeah.
not done. I mean, we end right on that shot of him picking up the completely untarnished dress in the middle of all this burnt rubble.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that bit is a little bit obvious, but again, it's classical. Again, this
Yeah.
aside from having the Italian horror trappings, this has a very EC Amicus anthology quality going on under the hood as well, mirrored in the timing of the setting as much as anything else. But yeah, no, there is a lot of classic horror DNA in this movie, but the movie itself is absolutely and resolutely and beautifully its own thing. It is never what you expect from moment to moment. I don't know. I can't wait to see this guy's next movie.
All right. Well, on that, that's going to do it for us here on What's on the Pile. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at What's on the Pile, or you can visit our website, whatsonthepile.com. Thanks for hanging out.